Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, it's Valentine's Day out there, and we think these rivers and lakes are going to give us a little love gift and put some fish in our boat. We got our usual crew here to be able to help tell us a little bit about how those lakes are going to do that for us. We'll be right back with what Lee, Tom, Josh, and Gentry have to say. Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, we got Josh Heron joining in right now. He's going to talk a little bit of Logan Martin and Lay Lake. Josh, we just had the NPFL at Logan Martin this last week. Seems like the bite was pretty decent. I'm sure they worked really hard for it, but the weights were decent, correct?
Yeah, they weren't terrible. Top of the leaderboard looked good. From about 20th down, looked pretty poor. Man, they kind of had the worst of everything. They had cold, mud, lots of current. It definitely was not a very good playing field for them. I think the water's starting to stabilize a lot, and some of the stuff the guys are doing is going to shine a little bit more in the coming week. The shallow crankbait bite's really fixing to start firing. A lot of fish are starting to show up in the back of these pockets right now. There's still fish pulling up on the river on some of these little eddy breaks and stuff like that, especially on the lower section of the lake and it's a little bit cleaner water. But sun and not an east wind is definitely going to help a lot.
Well, it seems like I know that Louis Fernandez, I know that David Fritz, and then the winner were shallow cranking. Is that what you see the predominant thing being for a little while?
Yeah, but February and March on Logan have always been the shallow crank and trap, shatter out historically. That's when that all rained. So that's not anything out of the ordinary. That's actually to be expected and hoped for. So the big kind of mix up that we've got, or mix in that we've got now, is we've got stuff like chatterbaits and stuff like that can kind of also fill a void that make it a little bit easier to fish those places. Shallow cranking on Logan traditionally sucks because all the trash that's on the bottom of the lake, whether it's leaves, fishing line, there's a lot of clutter on the bottom of the lake, so it's not, a lot of places aren't very pleasant to do it. Chatterbait's really going to shine. Throw in a little ball head jig when stuff gets tough, Ned rigs, stuff like that. But these fish ought to start moving towards where they want to go, especially with this weather warming and stuff like that. They're going to pull up on some of these clay banks and really start kind of gearing up, feeding through the middle of the day. I still look for it to be an afternoon bite deal, though. I think most of the work's going to get done from noon to 3, noon to 4.
What about Lay Lake in the last 20 seconds? Tell me what you're thinking there.
Tell Alabama Fire to quit spraying grass and let the largemouth do largemouth things.
That'll do it for this week, folks. Thanks for the time, Josh. We'll talk to you next week.
See you, boys.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, we're joined by our crappie cupid, Lee Pitts from up there at Weiss Lake. Going to talk a little bit of Neely Henry today, too. What's the crappie bite like right now, Lee?
On Weiss right now, we kind of had last week a little bit of a little sunshine popping in and catching some fish, but I don't know what's really happened. The water is still, we got a lot of stain in it. We're seeing fish. I think they're just about to bust off. It's just one of those things that fishing's still been a little tough. We've had some wind. The weather's getting great, but the fish are just not wanting to really cooperate as much now. You'll have I talk to all these guys out there and talk to the fishermen there at Weiss, and some of them will catch some fish doing the exact same thing that another guy's in a different part of the lake doing it, and he's not catching anything. So I think it's just getting around some fish that want to be active, want to feed a little bit, and just putting the bait in front of them.
What about the bass bite on Weiss? What are you seeing?
It's been tough. Once again, I thought that we were fixing to, like old George Jefferson, moving on up, but we kind of hit a standstill right now. So, the bass bite has been a little bit slow. We had a tournament last weekend, 18 pounds won, which that's a big stringer of fish anywhere you go. But after that, it really, really fell off, and half the field had 1 to 2 fish. So it's the same thing. If you find a little group that's congregated together and want to feed some, I know that there's been a crankbait bite, a jerkbait bite. It's not been for everybody. but it's been a pretty good bite doing that. And so what we're looking at on it is just covering water, just keep going, and just go till you find the right patch of fish.
All right, what about Neely Henry? How do we get into a largemouth love affair there?
You know, Neely right now, the with the largemouth, I think they're starting to try to get up around that dead grass. They're getting in the shallow little pockets. Once again, a crankbait deal. I know some guys have been pitching, going old school, pitching a lizard a little bit and catching some fish. So that's something that a lot of guys have forgot about. And these fish these days, hey, that lizard's brand new to them. It's putting on like a quarter ounce or something like that, pitching on a 3/0 hook and just easing it around. But also chatterbait's been real good and starting to kind of just hit that shallow stuff because they're coming. This sunshine this week has moved some fish. I know it's we had a lot of mud last week, pulled a lot of water, and had that hard east wind. But now I think things are trying to get right. They're trying to get together, and the fish are moving.
Lee, as always, brother, we appreciate it. Thanks for the help. We'll talk to you again next week.
All right, guys, y'all. I'll see you next week.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, we're joined by Gentry Gordy, going to talk a little bit of Lake Martin and Jordan Lake fishing. Let's start at Jordan again here. Gentry, what's going on over there?
It's getting better and better, Dano. We got these warm days coming up. With the water being good and stained, I think, we got the big ABT kickoff on Jordan this weekend. I haven't been back up there since the last time we talked. I know a lot will be different. With the warming trend, the water temperature is going to be on the rise. I'm going to stay with a moving bait most of the time. Your red flat-sided square bills, your chatterbaits, spinnerbaits. And I'm going to target, mid to the back of the pockets. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm more comfortable with. The water, I think, will start to clear a little bit. So, of course, the river's going to play, with your swim baits and stuff like that. Usually I feel like we have an advantage if it's real stained, being down on the lake. But it's going to clear up enough where I think that whole lake is going to be in contention to hold a big bag.
Is it time to start looking for some of those? Is the water dirty enough that you might want to have a little orange kicker blade or a fluorescent red kicker blade or big spinnerbait blades or something like that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's been that way. And, them spots are notorious for that. Something loud, chartreuse kicker, an orange kicker. I've got one tied on, I promise you.
Do not forget the trailer hook. They tend to swipe and miss. All right, Let's turn to Lake Martin. I know Lake Martin's probably got a mixture of stained water, clear water, depending on where you're at on the lake. What would you do over there right now?
My style, I'm going to stay towards the dirtier water. My dad went up there yesterday. You get around Blue Creek and it's still really, really clean water. But Sandy was about blowed out. So somewhere in between is, I don't know if I can get as far back as, blown out, but I would try to find that good mixture that's been stable for a while and do the same thing. I'm going to run the banks with square bills and look for trash piles, and throw a jerkbait over the top of them trash piles. Those spots will come out of those trash piles. You'll just have to, watch your cadence on your jerkbait. Do they want it fast? Do you got to let it sit for a minute? It all depends.
Oh, man, I love throwing a jerkbait. Do you want a deeper diver right now, or do you want one that kind of runs that 3-4 foot range?
I always have two. I always have the deeper, the plus one, and the shallower one. And it just depends on where my trash pile's sitting.
Gentry, as always, brother, we appreciate everything. Good luck this weekend. We're rooting for you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Good morning, everyone. This is Dan O'Sullivan with your Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, it's right before Valentine's Day, and we're going to talk the love of our lives, fishing, with Tom Ott, talking a little bit of Guntersville. Tom, what's happening up there on the big lake?
Well, this past week with the rains, Dano, and the high water, cold, muddy water, my heart was a little broken, to be honest with you. I mean, it was just, I found it a little bit tougher than it had been in previous weeks. I mean, and to be honest, the water really wasn't that muddy. It just seemed like things were just a little bit different, kind of lost touch with a few fish. But overall, I mean, we were able to put a few fish in the boat, but they really weren't where I kind of expected. And so my advice for this week would definitely be, don't think about where you where you believe the fish might be, this time of year, because it is driven by the moon phase. It is driven by the length of the day, and the length of the day has definitely increased. And even though we've got 49 to low 50 water temps, even with some warmer weather this week, those are going to be creeping up. But get a little bit shallower. I mean, I'm thinking, in that 5 to 3 foot range, kind of starting into your springtime patterns. Those are where a lot of these bucks are moving in, and there's some females starting to work in there too. That wasn't my experience. That is information that I've garnered over the week, but I think that I'm going to go with that, and I think you should too.
Okay, so what are the crappie anglers finding out there? I know you've kind of diverted yourself from the slabs, but what are you seeing out there? Are they around the causeways and stuff yet?
My goodness, the causeways, and again, bass, crappie, all the bait fish. There's really a big pinch point at those causeways and those bridges. The crappie are just really starting to stack up, as are the bass. You got to be a special angler to catch those big bridge bass, but the crappie are really plentiful right now. We went by and looked at a few schools that we saw, that we'd been fishing over the wintertime, and they were still very, very active. So absolutely, those fish are starting to make their push. They're going to spawn before the bass. It's time for those crappie to really start pushing up, getting a little bit shallower, making that move back into those flats.
Tom, as always, brother, we appreciate the information. Give St. Jennifer a kiss for us on Valentine's Day coming up. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
I'll absolutely do it, guys. Tight lines out there, and everybody be safe. Just watch the debris on the river and catch you some fish.
Well, that'll do it for our Bucks Island Area Fishing Report for Saturday, February the 10th. Hey, thanks for tuning in every week. We love hearing from you guys. We hope these guys have helped put a few more fish in your boat. And speaking of help, here at Bucks Island, we are all about trying to help you, whether it's get you in that boat that you want to be in, keep your boat running, or help you put a few more fish in the boat. We're always here to help you. Come see us at Bucks Island. We love you. We appreciate you. You are the best part of our family.